Hello there, welcome to Numerology Techniques number 1. My name is Jim Coker, I'm the developer of Numerology. I'll be your tour guide for this demonstration. Since this is our first video about numerology, we're going to start with a very quick tour of the user interface. Along the top of the project window there's a transport, so we have the usual buttons for stop, play, and rewind. We have a little beat counter and a BPM display, master synchronization switch, CPU load, a MIDI panic button, and a three-way button for navigating through the project. The panel we're looking at now is called the rack. This is where your modules live. Next we have a timeline for building arrangements, and there's also a mixer panel. But for now we're going to work just inside the rack. Along the left-hand side of it you'll see a module library with a few modules. There are actually two libraries, the standard library and an advanced library, but many of these modules require some extra work to get going. So if you want to use them, be sure to read the manual first. For now, we're just going to use the standard stuff. And what we see is we have some sequencers, some synthesizers, and some effects. Over in the main part of the rack, we have these kind of placeholder modules with these very clear hints on what we should do next. So let's follow along with that and drag in a note sequencer. For this demonstration, we're going to use the mono note. Okay, so what this has is a series of rows of sliders. The top row is for setting pitch values. The middle row is for timings for gate on and off messages basically. And then the bottom row is for velocity, or you can think of it as loudness or accent. Along the left hand side there are various sequencer controls, as well as on the right. We'll cover those in a minute. So let's start by adding a synthesizer, which is our next instruction down here. And we're going to use Rob Poppins Albino 3 from LinPlug. And we're going to open its edit window. And we're going to choose a bass sound. Okay, let's see how that sounds. Well, it's a little rich. Let's see if I can adjust the filter a bit. Okay, that should do. So let's just kind of run through some of the things we can do here. As we mentioned, the top row is for pitches, so we can program in some pitches here. Play that. And on the gate side, we can bring in extra notes by bringing the sliders up. We can add a little accent on the velocity side. Over on the left-hand side, we have a little mini transport for the sequencer. It's usually tied to the master transport, so we won't talk much more about it now. And then we have some menus for setting the rate of the sequencer right here, musical divisions. There are two other modes for setting the sequencer rate, but we'll talk about that in another lesson. We can change the sequencer direction, so we can run it forwards or backwards. Or we have a couple of alternating modes, or it can be random. There's also a function called hard sync. If you're using an odd numbered pattern, like say 5 steps, it forces the sequencer to reset every so often. In this case we'll set it to 4 beats. So that allows you to force an odd pattern to fit into an even patterned structure. I'm going to turn that off for now. And then down here there's a mute switch for the overall sequence. We have key and octave controls. The key also sets the bass key for a built-in note quantizer, so we can set this to a minor mode, and let's say we'll set it to E. And then over on the right hand side there's a randomize option. You can randomize some number of parameters by picking one of these menu items and then clicking this button. We won't do that right now though. There's also a shift function. Let's pull this out to 8 steps. We can shift the pattern back and forth if we like. We can zero all the pitches, or let's say we have some pattern, we can invert them. And we can also adjust the range that we cover. Down here on the gate side, we can normalize all our gates to a standard value, get kind of a legato sounding. And we can adjust the length of all the gates together to change the feel of the sequence. Or we can zero them all out. Ditto, we can normalize the velocities. And we can also adjust them. We'll do that a little bit later. So let's bump up the tempo of the piece. And I'm going to slow it down just a little bit, eighth notes. And we'll normalize the gate values and program in some pitches. Okay, so one trick that is often used with patterns like this is a delay calibrated to be a dotted eighth note. So we can add that by adding in Apple's AU delay. Can bring up its edit window. And I just happen to know that for 135 beats per minute, the right value of delay time is 0.333 seconds. Also, I want to pull down the cutoff frequency for this delay. It's nice as a little built-in low-pass filter. Close that down. Now let's see how that sounds. So that's pretty good. Now what would be good is if we could build some variations on this. And in Numerology, we have a great preset system for doing that. Presets basically store the state of all the modules in your stack. And in this case, we really just have the mono note. Albinos, we don't really want that to change, or the delay. We'll just leave those alone. But we can make a new preset by hitting the duplicate button. And we can make some changes to our pattern. And then we can play this and switch between them. So if you're listening carefully, you would have noticed that these preset changes are quantized to a bar, and you can actually go over into the mixer and down here. The setting here allows you to change that, but we'll leave that alone for now. And a couple more things about presets. You can double click on them, and you can change the name. Add a little comment. There, color and rating controls. And we'll assign a keyboard key to trigger the preset. And kind of do the same on the second one. And so now when we play, we can use the computer keyboard to switch between the presets. So that pretty much wraps up this first Numerology techniques. Feel free to download the beta and read through the manual, and tune in for further demonstrations.